cooking date night, my boyfriend and I decided to make a really simple and easy lasagna. We started by chopping 1 red onion and 2 large garlic cloves and adding this to a pan and then cooking that through. While this was cooking, we chopped up half a bell pepper and grated a small carrot. Now you can use mince or lentils in this recipe. If you use lentils, just add a lot more water. This is the first time I'm trying beyond mince for it.
Yeah, it's starting to fall apart. And it just says break up as desired. So you mush it up with the spatula while you cook.
Once the mince had cooked through, we added a tin of chopped tomatoes and our other veggies. And then stirred to combine this all together. We then added our herbs and spices, which were 2 bay leaves, but remember to take these out before eating, 2 teaspoons of oregano, a dash of soy sauce, salt and pepper to taste, as well as a sprinkling of paprika, but this is totally up to your taste. Then crumble a vegetable stock cube on top. I'm using a Knorr, I think that's how you pronounce it, stock cube. Then add some boiling water and simmer to reduce. Simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes. We then oiled our baking dish before creating our lasagna layers. To make this really simple and easy, we are cheating a little bit and using a pre-made white sauce, but you could totally make your own, and I will link a recipe in the description. And I am using the Sainsbury's free from lasagna sheets for this. I then grated some Violife cheese, but you can choose whatever cheese is your favourite, and sprinkled it on top before putting it in the oven. As a Christmas treat to myself, I decided to try ordering from an online supermarket. I tried the vegan kind, and this is absolutely not sponsored by them, but first of all, can we say how cute this box is? So the first item I got is this vegan version of After Eights, because my family have After Eights every single Christmas. I then got this special edition Christmas Tiffin selection box, which includes this cranberry and orange Tiffin. I also picked up these Lazy Day shortbreads, and that's because I really like Lazy Day products, so I thought I'd try some new things. This one's going away as a Christmas present, but I got a mousse-free selection chocolate box. Because I'm the only person who's vegan and gluten-free in my family, I got this Yorkshire pudding mix just to make Christmas dinner a little bit easier. And then I'm always on the hunt for good gluten-free bread, because it's impossible to find nice gluten-free bread that's also vegan, so I picked up these baguettes to try, and I have my fingers crossed that they'll be nice. Moving on to the chilled items, and I must say that I did like that the chill packets are reusable in this. As a side note, I got a nut roast, and I'm gonna have half of this on Christmas. The rest of my family have pigs and blankets every single Christmas and go on about how good they are, so I picked these up to try. And I've been wanting to try the cracked no egg for ages now, so I picked that up as well. And this is the whole haul. It was really expensive, so it's not something I would repeat all the time, but it was really nice to be able to try new things and be able to see the vegan range that's out there. I know a lot of people try and stay away from roasts on the lead up to Christmas, but I'm not very well versed in them, and I certainly have never made a gluten-free friendly one before, so I decided to try and do a practice run. So here I'm just peeling and chopping my potatoes and adding them to cold salted water. While I was waiting for this to boil, I added some oil and some rosemary to a pan and put this in the oven for it to heat up. Because I was only boiling a singular portion of potatoes, they only had to boil for about 5 minutes before I could put a knife through them, which means that they're soft enough. I then tossed them around a bit in order for them to be soft and fluffy before tossing them in the oil and adding some black pepper as well, and then returning them to the oven. This is my first ever time trying to make a Yorkshire pudding, and you will eventually see that it was a bit of a fail. Okay, more than a bit, it was inedible, but that's probably my own fault, so I will link the recipe below. I believe it was a Waitrose recipe. I think the issue was that I tried to make it gluten-free as well. When it comes to stuffing and gravy, I do cheat. I do use pre-packaged stuff because it's only for me, so it just makes it easier. I added the stuffing and the Yorkshire pudding after the potatoes had been in for 15 minutes, as these both took 30 minutes to cook. And here is the failed Yorkshire pudding. It was just a mess, and then it didn't even come off the tray, but the rest of it looks good and tasted good, I must say. I will give the pigs in blankets a good 3.5 out of 5. I would personally like them to be crispier, so I will cook them longer than the packet recommends next time. I would also normally have more veg, but all I had to hand was this broccoli. Believe it or not, I had never had leek and potato soup until about a month ago when my friend Theo made me some, so I decided to try and make my own recipe today. I started by chopping up 2 leeks, a small white onion or half of a really large white onion, and crushing 2 large cloves of garlic. I added these all to a pot on medium to low heat with some oil and sautéed them until they were soft. While those were cooking, I peeled and chopped 4 small potatoes. I then added some fresh rosemary and thyme, and this is on taste, but I think I added about 2 sprigs of thyme and 1 of rosemary. And you can absolutely use dried, just use like a teaspoon of each. I then added the potatoes, which I chopped really small so that they would cook quicker, and I also added a stock pot and about 2.5 mugfuls of water. I then brought this to boil before lowering the temperature and allowing to simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes or until the potatoes were soft. I then removed the pot from the heat and added 2 very heaped teaspoons of coconut cream, and then I added salt and pepper to taste. I like quite a lot of pepper in this recipe. And then I blended it all together, and make sure to add more water depending on what consistency you like, and also blend to your favoured consistency, and allow to cool before storing in the fridge. I started by finely dicing 1/4 of an extra large white onion and 2 cloves of garlic. I then sliced about half a punnet of chestnut mushrooms and added these all to a large pot on medium heat along with some oil, and cooked these until the onions started to look translucent. I then chopped up half of a bell pepper along with a handful of cherry tomatoes. The tomatoes I just cut in half because they'll break down during stewing. To the pot I then added a tin of drained butter beans, a teaspoon of paprika and some salt and pepper. I then stirred to coat everything in the paprika before adding half a tin of chopped tomatoes along with a cup of vegetable stock, and the cherry tomatoes and the bell pepper. Personally, I don't like a mushy texture, so I only leave this simmering for about 15 minutes, but you can definitely leave it for longer if you like. I served mine along with some pigs in blankets for more of a festive vibe, but I would normally have it along with bangers and mash. On Christmas Eve, I decided I wanted to do some Christmas baking to get me into the festive spirit. We made these Snowball cookies, and we had to pop to Waitrose to get some of the ingredients. While in here, we spotted some really interesting looking vegan Christmas options, however a lot of them were gluten-free, so wouldn't have worked for me. And now for the actual recipe. I started by preheating the oven to 190 and lining a baking sheet with non-stick greaseproof paper. I then measured out 125 grams of all-purpose gluten-free flour and sieved this into a large bowl. You can either use pecans or walnuts in this recipe. We are using a mixture of both in ours. You just need 50 grams of nuts in total and to chop them up quite finely. You then add the nuts to the flour along with a pinch of salt and half a tablespoon of cornstarch. And then you mix all of this together. Then add add 112 grams of butter to a different bowl. Do not use margarine like we are using here. Make sure you use a block of baking butter. Our first batch we used this flora and it just did not work. For these cookies you want a really thick batter, so something like the flora baking block is perfect. I then blended the butter and 60 grams of powdered sugar until they were creamed together. To this I then added half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. You then combine the wet and the dry by adding about a tablespoon of the dry to the wet at a time and then mixing until this is combined. As I said before, the batter becomes really thick, so it's easiest to do it in the small stages. And this is where the video swaps to our second batch. You have to finish off the dough by using your hands. You then roll about a tablespoon's worth of dough between your two palms to create the snowball shape. That part was very therapeutic and fun, like playing with Play-Doh. And then bake them in the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes. Once cooked, take them out of the oven and place them on a cooling rack and leave to cool. And then once they're cool, you can roll them in icing sugar to get that snowball effect. I ended up doing about 3 layers of icing sugar on mine.